Hey everybody, this is Vanati back again in Zoho Live, our very first episode in the year 2021. And you guys, we are so excited about this episode because this is basically the first one of this year. And you know what? We wanted this episode to be a little different from the ones that we have been doing before, where we spoke a lot about the technology and the software tools and hardcore business elements. But we wanted to take it a little slow, and we wanted to touch upon the humane elements of business in this episode. So our guest today is Agnieszka Vereshka, who is a founder and CEO of Square Ventures. She's an executive coach and a hospitality industry expert who's also an entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining us in Zoho Live, Agnieszka. I'm so happy to talk to you.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure, Vanati. Thank you for hosting me in your program.
Right. And Agnieszka, the very important element of business, which does not get spoken about enough, is the one that focuses on the people side of it. So that's why when Vaishnavi introduced you to me to you, basically, she said that you can talk to Agnieszka about pretty much anything. You can talk to her about entrepreneurship, mental health, hospitality industry. Basically, you can talk to her about anything under the sun. So we thought we'll talk to you about neuro-linguistic programming. And let us, for the sake of our audience, begin with the basics, Agnieszka. Tell us what is neuro-linguistic programming.
So thank you for the introduction, Vanati. So let's get into it. There is, one might say there is many definitions of neuro-linguistic programming, but I would like to share with you the most common and the simple to understand. So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it's a psychological approach to communication that involves analyzing strategies and applying them to reach desired results. So it would relate to thoughts, language, behavioral patterns, expressions that we would have learned through. Sorry. It's actually quite cold where I am.
Oh, I can see that. And this is an evening. It's a beautiful sunset time here in India, where I'm talking from. And I like the backdrop that you have.
Thank you. So going back to the neuro-linguistic programming, it relates to all thoughts, language, behavioral patterns, expressions that we would have learned throughout our life. And this would refer to the outside in and inside out communication. So these experiences shape our belief system. And part of the belief system are the operating beliefs. So you might want to ask, what are the operating beliefs?
Right.
Operating beliefs are all the cognitive behaviors that we have been collecting since birth, and that are responses to the outside world. So now every individual builds her own understanding of the outside world on own experiences using 5 basic senses. That could be the family interactions, the school, the work, the parenthood, the grandparenthood. It could also be various systems of rules at work, at community, the government that applies on us. So how we respond to the outside world, the cognitive responses include all the mentioned thoughts, words we say, the thoughts we have, the words we say, the behaviors we do, and experiences that shape our belief system. So you might want to know at this stage also how to identify an operating belief. And operating beliefs are a system of beliefs that built on decisions we make about anything and everything we experience in the outside world through the human language, which are the 5 basic senses. And that would be the seeing, the hearing, the touching, the kinesthetic touch, the smell, and the taste. So examples would be the way we eat, the way we brush our teeth in the morning, the way we dress, the way we prepare meal for ourselves. It could be the way we dress, the way we walk, the way we talk. So all of the experiences that we experience throughout a day are literally from the operating belief system that we have.
Right.
There is also a very important aspect here. It's the time factor. The time factor and the number of senses that are involved in a single activity. So, for instance, we love food. And if we have a pleasant experience with food, what would happen is it would be rooted into our operating belief system as something that we really like, as a pleasant experience. We would be looking for it constantly. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so you're saying that whatever a person perceives from the outside world, when it is being practiced for a long time, when it is tied to the factor of time, becomes a belief system in itself.
This is the time factor is something that roots it into the system deeper. It could be something also that we would have seen just once in our lifetime, but it had such an impact on us that we decided that it is something positive and we will have and we will use it in the future,
right,
if an opportunity presents itself.
right.
Now, the time factor is that something that roots a certain something that we've observed in the outside world, that we would have then replicated over and over again. And the more we do it, the more often we do it, and the longer we do it, it gets rooted into our system. And then if it's something that doesn't bring us the desired results, it would not be as easy to change as we would actually want it. So they say that 21 days make or break a habit, and 90 days makes a habit become a lifestyle.
Oh, nice. Okay. I've heard the former, but I don't think I've heard the latter. I see. Okay.
So now, do you have any questions so far, Vanity?
No, I'm just expecting you. I think you just spoke about operating belief, and that's one part of neuro-linguistic programming, like you said, and wherein how basic activity becomes a belief system in itself. And is there anything more or deeper to explore in there, Agnieszka?
Yes, there is, and thank you for asking this. There are also certain behavioral patterns that we would have acquired from the outside world that makes us achieve something that we did not actually plan. We thought that we would have achieved a different result, but in the process, something possibly went wrong, and we didn't achieve the desired result. So this would be this sort of situation. Oh, maybe let me give you an example of that.
Sure.
So it would be, for instance, that we say, bad things always happen to me, or I will never pass this exam. Or,
which is a belief system, you're saying.
That's good. This is an example of a statement that we would make that is based on a limiting belief.
Right.
So another example, it could be that I will never find a parking space. You see, as we are driving and we need to stop somewhere, it's a quite a heavy traffic and busy place, and we know that there's always problem with the parking, and then we will keep saying to ourselves, we'll never find a parking space, and that's exactly what will happen. We will not.
I mean, I think the objective truth in a city like Chennai is you definitely won't. Belief system or not. But yes, I get the drift. Go ahead, please.
So in opposite to that, so are the positive beliefs that, so for example, we could have here a statement such as, I love the apple pie with cinnamon that my grandmother always makes for me. Or I love swimming the most, and I'm still happy to try any other kind of sports. So as you can see, it's something that opens our mind to receive more experiences.
I see.
As opposed to the limiting belief, which is a closed-minded approach that we would have built on something that we would have seen somewhere or heard. And on many occasions, we would be affected by other people. So other people would say, you're not good enough, right? Or you're not doing this right. So if we receive comments full of judgment instead of curiosity, it keeps being rooted into our system as a limiting belief. And then we would have acquired that in a particular situation, either in the personal or a work environment, and then we take it with us and we carry on with our life. And that is already in our system.
I see. Okay. So in a way that in the operating belief, the trigger is from the outside world, and in the limiting belief, somehow we have internalized the outside world triggers and we have made it a part of ourselves. Would that be a good summary of that? Appropriate summary of what you said?
Yes, to a degree. And
Mm-hmm.
the operating beliefs, they can be the positive that affect us positively,
I
and
see.
limiting beliefs
Oh, I
that
see.
that affect us rather
Negative.
actually negatively. And
I
very
see.
often there is an association with
Mm-hmm.
a negative emotion or a toxic emotion
I see.
in connection to the limiting belief.
I
But
see.
they are
Got
all in our system. So, the summary here is that we need to understand that we have a belief system that we build
it.
over time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see, certain behavioral patterns from
Mm-hmm.
others, from
Mm-hmm.
people, from certain situations, from certain environments,
Mm-hmm.
we absorb it and we
Mm-hmm.
keep it in our system as if it's true.
I
But
see.
many of them, because they are limiting, they're not true.
I
The
see.
fact that let's say someone says to oneself that they won't I will never pass this exam.
Mm.
So this statement is based on an operating belief that has a
Mm.
negative connotation.
I
So
see.
that the individual may have created, maybe because they have not studied enough, or
Mm.
an employee who has doesn't have enough qualifications to deliver the job,
Right.
or simply that they anxious that they will not look good in the final
Mm.
outcome. So
Right.
there are hundreds, thousands, millions of scenarios that we can actually bring up here. But the
Right.
main point here for us to
Mm-hmm.
know today that is that we to be aware that we do have a system of beliefs, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's very important to keep building a
Mm.
system of positive beliefs
Mm-hmm.
and keep addressing the
Mm-hmm.
limiting beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
so then they become
Mm-hmm.
something that works for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. And can you put this in the context of business, Agnieszka? As in, what are the major aspects of NLP that businesses should look into?
There is the first and foremost aspect here to mention is that we are all human beings,
Mm-hmm.
first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So the humanity part of business is very important to address.
Right.
Every employee, every team member, every leader,
Mm-hmm.
every manager, every supervisor, every business owner is first and foremost a human.
Okay.
So, in the part of us as humans, we need to understand that we have the belief system and set of values.
Mm.
We have the set of strengths, skills, qualifications, experiences
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that become our life resources. And when we identify them and
Mm-hmm.
know how to use them effectively,
Mm-hmm.
we achieve our desired goals. We
Right.
actually set
Mm-hmm.
realistic goals
Mm.
and we deliver on them. So
Beautiful.
the second aspect here
Mm-hmm.
is that based on how we understand our life resources, we
Mm-hmm.
make our decisions.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think this kind of addresses the organization's leadership roles, what they carry as their resources through their belief system is going to perpetuate throughout the organization, is kind of how you're trying to put it, right?
It is definitely yes, one great way of understanding it.
Right.
So Now,
Go ahead, please.
the other aspect is associated with the responsibility and commitment of a specific role that an employee, a manager, a leader, a business owner has within the business environment and within the business ecosystem. And there are always and to a various degree emotions associated with that. So a simple example here we might bring is when we hear from our colleagues maybe, or from a manager that who's questioning the task that we have delivered, or the business objective, the result of the business objective we have achieved. So the questions, for instance, they might ask is, why did you do that? And why is one of the commercial words, as I call them, that have a negative connotation. It brings defensiveness to the conversation, because the person who hears why may feel immediately that they are questioned, questioned about something they may have done wrong. Right. So here the language used in the human-to-human interaction in the business world in this instance is very important to be changed to have positive connotation. So instead of why, so let's actually check with you, Vanity. So what would you ask? What could be the other word or a sequence of words that you would ask instead of why?
What? How? Can this be done differently? Would this be a better way to do it, or anything like that?
Yes, there was a good portion of the so-called open-ended questions.
Right.
These are very important in the communication between within the working environment to start with. So, what are the open-ended questions? Open-ended questions are those that answers to which are not yes or no. These are called the closed-ended questions.
Right.
So we would say, did you do it, or did you not do it? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. So these are the closed-ended questions. We want to avoid that as much as possible, unless the situations or the conversation requires such answer. But when we question something, we want to bring more of the conversation and enable the person to bring much more to the conversation than a yes or no. So when we question someone's results, we want to ask, what's the reason you deliver this task in this way or not the other? Or what would be the other way of doing it?
Right. And why is it very important, Agnieszka? I want to ask you that. Let's say from a manager having a conversation with a reportee, why is it very important that he leaves questions which are open-ended instead of closed-ended? What does it bring out from the employee?
So this, first and foremost, makes the individual in question feel confident that they are not being judged to start with. We live right now in a quite unprecedented times, and the fact that our movement actually is restricted right now does not give us the confidence, and or may affect our confidence in the work we deliver. And So what's important here is, from a perspective of a manager, of a supervisor, team members, is that there is a conversation that is a productive and constructive conversation based on positive feedback. That not only the person in question is learning from or can add value to, but everyone else involved too.
Right. Right.
So there are actually here suggestions that might help people refer to. So, for instance, at an individual level, the imperative for every business today is to transform individual burnouts to potential-driven, confident individuals.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Yes. In fact, I was going to touch upon it progressively, Agnieszka. I know that NLP is relatively an older concept. It has been in practice like since 1970 or probably even before that. You would know better. But today we live in a very, very fast-paced, tech-driven digital world. So how relevant do you think NLP in today's world more than it ever was before?
Thank you for this question, Vanessa. The NLP, as much as the coaching industry, is still fairly new. It goes back to approximately 40 plus years now, and it's developing. It's extremely important because it touches, as you said earlier, it touches the area of our life that is related to us as humans. And this is not spoken enough in today's world. So when we talk about the interactions, and right now that our movements are limited, let's take business meetings, for instance. Business meetings right now actually moved, if not in 100%, in some cases, then somewhere close to that online. So most of the meetings that we have are either via a phone call or an online platform that can enable either audio or visual communication.
Yes.
So now let's have a look at what would happen before, and not only 40 years ago, but also back in times as far as we can remember. People would have gathered to have a meeting. People would have taken the time to go from A to B point to meet. So there are time and cost investment involved.
Right.
Now, as you can easily refer to it, we set our either home office or possibly who can in the office environment, but there is no movement other than actually maybe going from one room to another within the office space.
True.
So
Yeah.
the cost and time of actually preparation, there is no time and cost of travel. The only cost that we would have is the cost to connect online and to actually have the tool to use through which we would conduct the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So the time and cost element is actually one or two of the main to observe how they've changed. But let's go back to the aspect of the human within that space. We only can connect digitally.
Right.
It will never be the experience of having a meeting as if we would when we sit next to the person, when we observe when we see the smile in a live way, when we see the facial expression. So, for instance, if we go for a coffee, meeting with a coffee or a lunch or a dinner meeting, what type of meeting it is, there is this whole infrastructure behind it that we also interacted. There is the people who serve the food. So there is quite a lot that we can detect from these situations. For instance, when we are approaching a new business relationship, we're still finding out. We are in the phase of finding out, building the trust with the individual, and we take this individual, we invite them to a coffee meeting. A perfect space to observe how do they respond with their 5 senses to the external environment. So how do they ask for the coffee? How do they, the language they use to the kellner or to the waiter, to people who attend with the service.
Right. Yeah.
So this could be, let's say, a first sort of level of understanding how they will interact with us as their business partners. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. And I think I also relate to what you're saying, because even after so many like video calls for over a year that we all may have done, and even webinars like this, it's still, there is a big sense of fear, you know, when you turn on your laptop and when you're going to see only your teammates through this device. But then it would absolutely not be the case if you were to just go ahead and gather inside a meeting room in a physical office environment. I think that is because of the lack of that kind of a connection, the physical connection in the same space, and to be able to be more open and to be able to trust that person who is standing right next to us. So yes, I think it makes sense.
Yes, thank you for the summary. It's a good understanding of this. There is Vanity, don't get me wrong, there is the topic of the human interactions is enormously big. If
I
this
know, I
is the
understand.
simple
Yes, 100%
describe.
agree. Yeah. And I want to talk to you about as much as we can, you know, in this session, because as I see, the minute we start to uncover the answer for every question, I could feel that we are getting more deeper and deeper and deeper. So let's see where it takes us, Agnieszka. And with that spirit, I'm going to ask you about are there any tools involved in NLP? Because I was doing a bit of a research once this webinar was confirmed, and I came across this line, which I will now read out for you. It said that NLP contains a set of tools that help us to become more powerful communicators, happy and more productive individuals. It is about advanced communication with ourselves and others. Can you throw us some light into it? Because this talks about making an individual itself happy and more productive. And it also talks about advanced communication with ourselves and others. And also, I would like you to touch upon the tools that come into picture in NLP, Agnieszka.
Thank you for this, Vanity. Yes, first and foremost, the NLP tools bring the understanding to ourselves about ourselves. Bring the understanding of, it can help to bring the understanding on who we actually are.
Right.
What is the purpose we have been brought to this world? And every one of us is a unique, completely unique combination of values, skills, strengths, experiences, qualifications. And it depends on the belief system that we keep building over time, is how we use those life resources as they are. Now, does it make sense? I will keep asking this, because if Vanity, if there is, please do feel free to drop a question or to stop me, to interrupt me. This is perfectly fine. There's something that needs to be added. As I said, the topic is so wide that I'm trying to pick the most important aspects that can add value today at this stage to the audience.
I was actually going to interrupt you to ask Agnieszka. I mean, till what we have discussed, it feels like somehow NLP would put who you are as a person, who you have grown into, more than the credentials or the certificates or the skills or the talents that you bring in a work environment, if I were to put it in the context of an organization. Is that right?
That's definitely right, Vanity. I'm sure many of us would have had a situation where they would look at others and they would say, how am I different from this person? I have all the certifications, all the qualifications, and I'm not getting the results that I'm seeing from my perspective that others do. So NLP techniques, the knowledge of this neuro-linguistic science is important to have to enable the development and to understand actually who we are, what life resources do we have today, and how to use them to everyone's advantage, not only us, because at the end of the day, we don't live for ourselves. However, we keep shaping our own person, our own personality. We keep shaping our skills, our strengths to be of service to others.
Right.
So
that is where the tools come in.
And this is exactly where the tools come in. So very simple, that there are simple tools that can be used immediately in everyday environment, and there are the ones that are a little bit more complex, that require a little bit more time and patience with ourselves. So the quick tools are, for instance, asking the specific questions that we spoke earlier about, the questions that are open-ended questions, which would start with when, how long, how often, what does it make you feel, etc. Another tool would be reframing questions, so then they don't sound judgmental. They become they become curious. So the person who asks the question becomes curious rather than judgmental in a specific situation or an environment. Another tool would be the 3 level of listening. The first level of listening is when we are listening to someone through the prism of our own experiences. So actually, they hearing what we are hearing what they're saying, but we're not actually listening to it. Does it make sense? Because no matter what the other person would say, we keep hearing something else.
Right.
now, the second level of listening is when we are able to listen, but we cannot actually refer to what the other person is saying. And that is already one step higher in the communication, because we are opening to receive the other perspectives. And the third level of listening is where we are able to notice the external environment and how the person who's talking to us is responding to. So, for instance, if we, let's say we're having an interview today, and there is a, let's say, a flight, right? An aircraft flying, let's say, above my office, and it creates a huge noise. So you would observe from the third level, how do I respond to that noise while we're having the interview? Would I be distracted? Right? Which could also be an element to notice as a translation to how focused am I? Am I easily distracted? And that is also one of the qualities that in the business environment we observe, or the managers observe within their team. Right. So there is various tools. There is one also that I want to mention, which is quite interesting. It's the paradigm shift, and this type of tool opens our mind to other people's perspectives. So, for instance, if you draw on a piece of paper a 6, a number 6, right? And you show it to me, and you ask me, what is it? What will I tell you?
6.
No, I will tell you it's a 9. Because
yes.
I will see it as a 9.
Yeah.
So look at the situation. How much of this can create some sort of disagreements,
right?
Where you draw a 6, and I cannot deny that, but I'm seeing from my perspective and my point of view only 9.
Right.
So you see, this is where the initiative to change the environment comes in. So what can I do to see a 6 instead of a 9? I need to change my point of view. So if I physically go and stand next to you and look at the 6, I will be able to see a 6 finally. Right. How does this refer to the everyday situations? Is instead of me moving physically to stand next to you, because I can't do that, it's a pandemic and we can't travel, we can't meet right now, I will be curious about your point of view. I will ask you to describe it. I will ask you to give me more information, so then I'm able to see it with your eyes. Makes sense?
Right, it does. And I think it is these kind of, especially, again, I'm going to put this in the context of an organization or in a business, when the leadership would make an effort to see what their employees are going through, or how they are responding, what their perspectives are. It is those kind of things that builds the culture inside an organization. So, and it is such an important thing, the culture of a business. You can build products, you can ship great services, but the culture that you build is going to tell who you are as a brand, and it is going to keep your business lasting. So I was going to ask you about the role of NLP in building the culture of businesses, Agnieszka.
Thank you for this question, Vanity. It's super important. As I've touched upon it earlier, we start with us being a human, first of all. So humanity in the business space is very important. It's actually imperative for every business to thrive rather than survive. This doesn't happen overnight. It requires time, and it requires structured and a specific course of action to be able to change from the culture possibly of individuals who are right now burned out, who are not confident, to individuals that are on our team who are driven, who are potential driven individuals.
Right.
So to cultivate this space, and how we do that by us as managers, as the organizational leaders, as the business owners, we enable the space of helping the individuals understand who they are, to help them learn about themselves, about their strengths, most importantly, because the skills and the qualification, this is something that we acquire over time by practicing our craft. But the strengths, if we do not know what our strengths are and why some of the behavioral patterns that we may observe might appear weaknesses to us.
Right.
So, and the weaknesses bring a lot of doubt in everything we do, and that's not what we want, because that's not what builds our confidence. So a leader and a business owner, a manager, we are looking at moving from a manager to a coach, to a leader with coaching skills. So when there are challenging situations, they will be able to support the individual by replacing judgment with curiosity. And the simple tools that I've mentioned earlier could be the first step to do that. Now, also, in the aspect of the managers, it's also important that the managers know who they are, and and that they are actually responsible for their team, and how to bring in them the energy that is required to increase the productivity and performance, not only the individuals, but also of the team, that in the end will result obviously in the higher return on investment for the entire organization.
That's amazing. This makes me want to ask a counterintuitive question here, Agnieszka. I understand how when you empower the leadership to look inward and to use the NLP tools to empower the employees who report to them, it builds for a good culture. But assuming or considering that it doesn't happen at the leadership level for whatever reason, and in real time, if I were to quote an example, I would say that whenever a manager is unwilling to see the perspective of an employee, it is mostly because they want to sort of like move the responsibility towards the employee instead of take it on upon their self. So in that kind of a situation, how does an employee step up and make the manager, or sort of push the managers gently, slowly, to see them where they are coming from without offending them? Or how do they step up to show where they are coming from?
Thank you. This is actually great that you are addressing this. Again, I don't want to be repetitive, but it works both ways. As much as we are enabling, we as coaches, we are enabling the managers, the leaders, to look at their teams, their employees within an organization, within a business, through the human need point of view, first of all. It's the same rule applies on the other side. So, for instance, a team member, if there's something that doesn't seem to go right, or the results of the tasks they deliver, or the objective is not actually being achieved here, so they should naturally seek help from either other team members or the manager, right? And the same again rule applies to those who are the, let's say, employees, and using those simple tools, the tools that as in the tools that I've mentioned already, and obviously much more in the communication with the manager. So for instance, when they see that the manager is acting in a different way, maybe they stressed, instead of bringing up in a conversation, coming to them to complain about something, how about changing the approach from complaining to asking, what is there that I can do? Or what other tools or what other approaches could you share with me from your experience that have worked well in the past that I could possibly use? I need your help. But the important part is to communicate with the confidence that we do need help, that we are human beings, we do not know everything, and we are in our growth path. And connect on a human level. This is actually the main secret of all.
Beautiful. Agnieszka, I think I'm almost compelled to ask an anecdote from you, because I know you're an entrepreneur and you have dealt with clients across the globe, numerous clients across the globe. And I'm sure there will have been situation where, say, a stressful situation or a critical situation which could not be resolved because of the skill of your resources, or because of the talent pool that you have in your team, but only because of the NLP tools, or because of the humane part, just by connecting with the client at that level. So can you quote us any such incident, Agnieszka?
Yes, thank you for this. In fact, there is one that have actually stayed in my with me. I think that it's always good to have this type of feeling of a result that the NLP tools, the coaching tools that I would have acquired over time have helped me as a business leader. And so it's a situation where myself and my team, we were looking after an event project, for a conference project for one of our clients, and the manager at the client's end for some time seemed to be a little bit distracted, a little bit emotional. He started showing up late to the meetings, demanding times that were actually unrealistic. And the team member who was looking after this particular client actually started having doubts whether we will be able to deliver this project.
Obviously.
Because of that. And so he came to me for advice. So what I did was, I called up a meeting. I did not tell him what to do, because not the point. I called up the team. And this is something also that I wanted to mention earlier. The team, once you've entered the NLP, the executive coaching, the business coaching space, you start speaking the language of that. You shift from looking at the team or at your team as a team of people, as a team of individuals, you start looking at them as a team of strengths, as a team of certain sets of skills that can be utilized to achieve the goal of the team, of the organization, right?
Right.
So going back to the example, so we the team gathered and we brainstormed. We collected the information on the facts and the needs, as we knew the project had, and as we knew the manager on the client side had. And we found out, as I mentioned earlier, that there was something possibly. I mean, we didn't ask that question because it wouldn't be professional. But at the end, actually, he disclosed himself that he's been distracted lately because something happened in his personal life, and his productivity and performance was definitely not at the place where it would normally be.
Right.
So we also, in the process of our research, we also identified that the manager on the client side was very good with numbers. And he's very witty. He always makes jokes in our meetings, obviously positive jokes.
Right.
And so what we looked at, we looked at the course of action. So we looked at the set of skills that we have, regardless of the individual who was the leader of the project at the time. And we selected the skills that would best handle the situation. So we selected a strategic skill and strength. We selected a relator. We also selected a deliberative and connectedness.
Nice.
So what happened? How did they deliver the great result? Is that the deliberative and the relator, first of all, the skills that the team members who had the strength of relator in them communicate to the person who was managing the project how to communicate to the manager. Okay,
Wow.
This is how it works. So the individuals who have those specific strengths as their top strengths, they work with the manager of the project to communicate to the client. So the relator strength helps our manager, our team member, communicate to the client, connect with them, to talk to them at a human-to-human level.
Beautiful.
To understand what the actual needs are, where is it that he may need help at a human level, and then at the business level.
Beautiful.
So that's number one. The deliberative strength communicated to the client, helped the client, helped him get back into the schedule of the project. So he was no longer behind, and he was not showing up late to meetings.
Right.
The strategic, on the other hand,
Nice.
The strategic strength helped the client understand where we are in the project in the sense of progressive goal achievement, and where is it that we can most do the ROI, most deliver on the ROI.
Right.
Because he was very good with numbers. So he needed that structured approach to understand what the project is and how the clients, the organization at his end can achieve their business goals. So the overall result was that we not only finished the project before the schedule, but we also but we also landed 2 new projects, and
That's amazing.
that was a great success for us. So it's
That's
very,
amazing.
the bottom line is it's very important that we know who we are, how to use our skills, how to utilize our strengths to the advantage of everyone involved.
Definitely. And this is an amazing example, Agnieszka, because I'm sure everybody will be able to relate to it. Whenever a desired outcome is not achieved in any team or in an organization, the reason is somehow almost always because something at the human level, at a personal level, is not going right within a team with one person or two, three people put together. It could be even within the dynamics of people inside the team or in their personal lives. But for some reason, we don't take the effort to get to that realm, that humane realm, and address those issues, which will invariably end up addressing the business side of, I would say, outcome, the resulting outcome. And we assume that people are just robots, and if something is given to them as task, if something is assigned to them, they will, like an automaton, deliver results. So this is amazing that you pointed out this example. I would love to talk more about this, but we're running short of time, Agnieszka. So I'm going to ask you one last question as to how can organization implement these NLP tools and strategies? In your case, you said you were able to, you as the team leader, you were able to figure out that, okay, something is going wrong, which is not specifically because of a problem in your team, and you were able to identify people who will be able to talk to your client in a certain way, and you were also able to decode where the problem could be and what are the positives or the strengths of dealing with this client and all of those kind of things. So how can organizations use that? So this is one question, and I'm obviously going to load it heavily. During the start of this conversation, you said that NLP is about helping an individual realize themselves as to who they are. If I think you even mentioned self-actualization. How does an organization help each and every one of its employees, not just its leadership? I mean, not just definitely the C levels, but let's assume it could even do this to the managers. But how can it go beyond that and help each and every one of their employees implement some of the NLP tools? So, yeah, there I go.
Thank you for these questions, Vanity. I think I may even answer both of them at one time. So making these tools as part of an everyday culture in an organization is the key. And putting a system in place that those tools are actively used. For instance, in a meeting, the manager who calls up a weekly meeting can add at the end of the meeting 5 minutes. It starts with 5 minutes, that every team member has, let's say, a minute to share anything they'd like to share, not necessarily work related. This builds the bond between the team members.
Right.
This also helps people become more confident to speak about their needs, which is super important at these challenging and unprecedented times that we live in right now. This is one of the ways of actually implementing the tools, but it's important. Actually, the most important thing is that the organization speaks the same language. So, in order to do that, we normally, and this is what I did with my team, we went through the transformational leadership training, through the process of that. So I knew at the time that something was happening. I knew that when I call a meeting, I only guide my team. They will know what to do, right? Because they already knew at the time what their skills were. They were confident about how to use their strengths, so they actually help them deliver the results that they want.
Right.
Rather than sometimes hiding in the bushes, oh, don't pick me, kind of kind of approach, right?
Yeah. I don't want to deal with this client kind of scenario. Yes. Yeah.
So my team was trained, and therefore there was no slightest doubt that they will not be able to develop to deliver the results that we wanted. Does that answer your question, or
yes,
both?
and I was asking you just the last portion of it, which is, I mean, earlier you said you talked about limiting beliefs, and you talked about operational beliefs, which are mostly how an individual is shaped because of a lot of external stimuli. And with that being the case, how do you help somebody realize them or get to the self-actualization level?
There are one sort of system of not one, but one of the basic systems of understanding our needs is, and I recommend here to look into this term, Maslow's hierarchy of basic human needs. And that explains how we naturally progress in our personal growth. So first, our system as a human being, we would look to fulfill our physiological needs. So it's the home environment. In let's say in the business environment, it would be how your physical environment looks. How does your desk look? Do you have does the organization have a toilet, or do you have to go to the next door building to if you need a refreshment? And then the next level is security and safety. So referred to, let's say, the business environment, it means, am I satisfied with my work? Am I satisfied with the money I make for my work? The next level would be love and belonging. And the love and belonging is a space not necessarily only that refers to our husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. space, the intimate space. Yes, it is part of it as a personal life part of as part of the personal life. But in the business space, it's the sense of belonging to a community, to a team. So the example earlier that I mentioned, to add the 5 minutes that every team member shares, anything that they want, is extremely important. That builds that bond. And then when we feel good about that we belong to a culture, to a community at work, to a team, we deliver better results. So our self-esteem is higher. And once we build on that, we keep achieving our desired results. A next step from that in our personal development is the self-actualizations. And this is the state of being that everybody is actually working towards. It doesn't happen overnight. It depends on your belief system, how you build them, how you shaped your personality, how you respond to the outside world, and how you are able to eliminate the negative voices, the negative factors that might bring a toxicity in your life. How are you able to mitigate the toxicity from, for instance, judgment to curiosity within an instant. So, this is that something that we want to cultivate and practice.
That we have it, yeah.
Yes,
that's
and
like Fidel, yeah.
Commitment, persistence, and no shortcuts would be my recommendation here.
That's amazing. And we are going to end on that note, Agnieszka. This has been great. It's such a loving, moving, and a time for introspection, I would say, for whoever attended this session. And thank you so much for your wisdom. I hope to connect with you again to talk more about NLP and its tools. And thanks for today. And audience, you can go ahead and post your questions on the comment box if you have any. And if you have suggestions for our next episodes, you can go ahead and do that on the comment box as well. Thanks again, Agnieszka. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for having me.